Once a xenomorph egg is hatched and a facehugger emerges to latch itself onto a victim, the embryo implantation stage quickly begins. And from that moment, the unlucky host is believed to be dead already, and is only a few hours away from giving birth to an alien through a terrifying and unbelievably painful experience, where once fully developed, the infant xenomorph bursts through the ribcage and begins its life as the savage, destructive parasite. For those unlucky enough to be aware they are carrying a xenomorph embryo, it's a tense and disparaging death sentence where all they can seem to do is count down to the inevitable, with little to no hope of surviving. So is there any possible way that this process can be survived? Is there any hope that a host can avoid giving birth to an implanted xenomorph and live through it? The first question that naturally arises is whether or not a facehugger can be removed once it's attached to the host. By all accounts, this seems to be a distinct impossibility, as the bond between facehugger and host is incredibly strong, and the hugger's instinct is, of course, to make sure that it implants the embryo successfully. As observed with Kane on the Nostromo, any attempts to forcibly remove the parasite only caused it to tighten its grasp on the host, and once an incision is made on one of its digits, its acidic blood pours out, creating a huge threat of possibly burning through the hull of the ship. And it's rightly deemed by Captain Dallas to not pursue any further surgical attempts to remove the creature from Kane's face. On the LV-426 colony, Bishop observes reports that account similar removal attempts. A post-mortem report on colonist John J. Marichuk outlines the following. Dr. T. Biggs, ID 75492, killed in attempt to remove the creature surgically. The colony's only surgeon made a single incision across the creature's back and was sprayed with less than an ounce of organic acid across the face and throat. Organism was pulled free by 2 Meditechs and secured in specimen jar. Evidence in blood panels of toxic chemical dump at time of removal. Patient died from myocardial infraction brought on by traumatic shock and poisoning. It would seem, based off this account, removing a facehugger without killing the host, and whoever may be operating on them, is an impossible task, and the best chances of survival when being implanted with a xenomorph would be after the implantation and during the embryo gestation period. An obvious example of a successful embryo removal would of course come from Alien Resurrection, where Ripley is cloned with the alien queen inside of her, and the team of scientists aboard the Auriga remove it, doing so without losing the lives of the specimen or its human host. It should be taken into account, however, that Ripley 8, this cloned version of her former self, was brought back to life through the cloning process with xenomorph DNA surging through her system, being a partial alien herself. Ripley 8 displays advanced strength, far beyond that of a normal human, which may have very well contributed to her chances of survival, and it's probably more within reason to view her as an exception to the rule. This begs the question, if the original Ripley, 200 years before the events of Alien Resurrection, had agreed to let Weyland-Yutani perform removal surgery on her, would she have survived? In Alien 3, Bishop 2 is shown making every attempt to convince Ripley to trust him when he confronts her in Fury 161's Leadworks, claiming the company wants to remove the parasite, kill it, and take her home. He tells her pretty much everything she wants to hear, claiming that they couldn't allow it to live and that everything they know would be in jeopardy, and stressing the fact that she could still live out a normal life. In the assembly cut version of the film, a Weyland-Yutani scientist makes a further attempt to persuade Ripley by outlining the surgery's details. It's very quick, painless, a couple of incisions, you'll be out for 2 hours, and then it's over.